Okay. Hello, everyone. We're doing yet another live stream. I think this is my fourth live stream of the week, or it's been awesome. And we have a guest that you may have seen on my show before, Farzad Mesbahi. And so we're going to talk about a lot of things in this chat. We're going to talk about AI Day because Farzad, you worked for Tesla for 4 years. And then we're also going to talk about Starlink in Iran because, you're personally affected by that. So let's start with AI Day. That's pretty fresh in all of our minds. And I
Sure.
mean, what is it like to watch that as someone who, was a part of Tesla? This was obviously a recruiting event. So they want to get more brilliant minds like yourself at Tesla. So what was it like watching that and also just seeing Tesla bot?
It was super cool. The thing that I remember the most from my time is just how much swagger people from Tesla have when it comes to showing why they're so good at building things, you know? And that was my biggest takeaway from the event was just how unapologetic Tesla is from showing their entire hand on what they're working on early and very openly, and then basically telling every single other competitor, look at what we're working on. This is exactly how we're doing it. Try to catch up with us. Like that's kind of like that swagger. It's really, really cool to see. So from like, it harkens me back to my time there. And I'm like, yeah, that's the kind of swagger a lot of like we had kind of walking around. Like we know what we're doing. We're going to work extremely hard to make it happen. We're going to be very open about sharing it with the world. And it's almost like a dare. It's like a dare for anybody else to try and catch up. So that was really cool to see. I think the fact that they were able to get a bot up and running, well, not up and walking, technically, in 6 to 9 months
With some
was,
support.
yeah, with some support, was quite impressive. It was really, really impressive to see that. And I thought the development cycle for that product is going to probably surprise people just based on what we've seen, especially when it comes to the bot being useful internally to start with Tesla. So I thought that we got a signal from the company that said, hey, like we're really going towards this direction and we think we're going to get there relatively soon. So that was very encouraging to see. And then it really got my brain going on, okay, what are the implications here in the next 3 to 5 years? And I think for like 2 or 3 nights I had a really tough time going to bed, like sleeping, because I'm like, I couldn't get my brain to shut off, you
Oh my
know?
God.
Yeah,
Really?
crazy.
No
It was
way.
absolutely nuts. Yeah.
I want
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
someone's saying they like your shirt. Maybe you show off
Oh,
your shirt a little bit
that's your
first.
boy, everyday astronaut. It's
Yeah,
from
it's
his merch
my
store.
boy, Tim.
Yeah. He has the
That's
best
awesome.
merch. I know you and I have talked about it before. Like he's got excellent, excellent merch. So
Yeah,
I'm repping everyday astronaut tonight, today. So yeah,
very
yeah.
quality
But I
stuff.
was having a really tough time, like just getting my brain to shut off. What did you think of the event?
Oh, I mean,
Because you were
I
there,
loved
right?
it. Well, I
Yeah.
certainly wasn't expecting to see it in person. That was kind of wild. I just had this like gut feeling that if I didn't go and at least try to, my plan was to like interview people before and after. So get their pre and post reactions, kind of like red carpet style going in. And then the problem was I couldn't get past like security to the building, but then I found out there was a plus one. So anyway, my plan was like completely foiled. And
Hmm.
I had already driven 11 hours down there, and then like maybe 30 minutes before the presentation I found out, oh, they are allowing plus one. So then I got in. So yeah, what was my experience? It was amazing to literally be in that room because this is just such a historic moment in time, and to see what they've been able to create in such a short amount of time. I feel like that 3 to 5 year kind of timeline that Elon threw out might not be completely Elon time, which a lot of other things are, but maybe they can actually have this thing up and running at least internally in that 3 to 5 year mark. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's totally. I think that can be correct. I think, and I fall sort of guilt. I'm guilty of this as well, where maybe rightfully so, where 3 to 5 years coming out of Elon's mouth is like 5 to 8 or 10
Yeah,
to
yeah,
10, 10 to 20. I'm like, okay, but it's kind of like that's the kind of track record he set up for himself, and he's jokingly, been very open about it, and he's said, I'm never on time, but I always get it done. That was sort of the
right.
message that we've heard from him. So, which is ultimately what's important is like, yeah, it's better late than never. And
Right.
that's like an old adage that has been around for God knows how long. So, but I do think as of late, Tesla has been able to hit things on time, especially if there isn't like a something like say a supply chain issue with COVID and all the hardships that came from that. For example, Model Y was like 6 months early or something crazy like that. So it's interesting to see. But again, you put that within the context. Compare that to full self driving. It's been 6 months away for 4 years, right? So I can get why our brain would automatically go to this is probably going to come later than we think. But for it to be useful in some sort of setting, I think 3 to 5 years makes sense. I really do think so because take a bot as an example, and I'll use my area of expertise in Tesla when I used to work there. It was in service distribution. So it was literally moving parts from suppliers to warehouses to service centers so they can put it into your car to fix your car. That takes a lot of manual labor to move products from point A to point B. And there's machinery that's used to do that. So forklifts, humans can use jack stands to move them around, but there's also a lot of freight that gets moved by hand. There's stuff that gets picked out of bin locations and moved from the racks to the outbound floor, and then it gets packaged and then put on a pallet, and then the pallet gets moved to the trailer. A lot of these types of jobs of moving product from point to point, the bot can probably become very useful very, very quickly because
Right.
all it really needs to do is navigate the area, identify the product, pick it up, and put it down. Within the context of what the bot is fully capable of, that seems like a very low hanging fruit for the bot to be useful. Another one is security. Yeah, so I spoke with Warren about this a little bit briefly earlier today, and he'll have a video out tomorrow. But that was another use case where security makes a ton of sense. All that is a bot just moving around.
Right.
Like, what else do you need a bot to do? You allow the cameras to just capture the area and then send a notification or call 911 when it sees some sort of object or something happening that deems an emergency response. So there are use cases where the bot can be very useful very, very quickly. The
Right.
question becomes how long is it going to take for the bot to truly become something that commoditizes labor? So what
Yes.
that means is when will everything be so cheap that everybody has access to it, right? That's going to take decades. That's going
Yeah.
to take a long time. It's going to take a long time. But the ramp to that is going to be exciting to watch, but also it could be quite worrisome for some because things will get disrupted, I think, in some shape or form. But the eventual goal, especially if labor is commoditized to the point where hiring or having a bot clean your house, nowadays, if you want to hire, say, a maid to come over and clean your house once a week, you're probably paying 500 to $1,000 a month, depending where you live, maybe even more sometimes. If that instead is effectively $10 a month, and you can apply that to a
Yeah.
lot of different things, the equation changes
Oh, that'd be
completely.
amazing.
It would be nuts. So everything becomes almost nothing.
Right.
And when everything is almost nothing, the question becomes, will people have enough money to afford almost nothing? And what will they do instead of doing those things? So
Right.
it opens this entire different pathway of how humans interact. So I read very recently, and like literally I can't get my brain to shut off, but literally Sapiens is a work by, I forget the
Yes.
author. Have you read that book,
I still
Sapiens?
need to read it. You keep bringing
It's so
it
good.
up.
It's so good. So the story is 10,000 years ago, humans became basically an agricultural species. Like some might say wheat domesticated us, right? So that it can propagate through the world. But essentially what happened is we turned from nomads who had a very leisurely lifestyle that lived off the land, and we shared stories and we taught each other the things we've learned, and we just kind of chilled and ate and hung around, to a species that whose primary function was to create value for the world. So we work, 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 work. Most of the world is like this now. Now with the bot, we could revert back to how we were as a human species before the agricultural revolution 10,000 years ago, which is what a large percentage of our life on earth has been, just chilling,
Right.
hanging out, sharing
Yeah.
stories, just having a really good time and being human beings. But
Oh
the
my God.
shift to go from that to there, what the frick is going to happen? I mean, it's crazy.
Right.
Now all of us have to retrain our brains to go away from this, like, I got to work all the time to create value, to I don't have to work to be happy. Oh man, how many people sort of identify with work as self? You know, like a lot of
Totally.
people think about it that way. I don't know,
Totally.
man. It's just
Well,
the
Farzad, you
yeah.
told me, because it's been about 4 months or so since I quit my job in news, and I've been full time
Uh-huh.
on YouTube. And with that does come obviously more flexibility with my time. And you're right, it is weird to have, like, especially in news, right? You're working on a deadline every single day, and sometimes your interviews fall through, and like you're putting a story together in less than 2 hours, and then you're going live, and it's just like really fast paced and really stressful. And so to not have, like, I don't know, all of that pressure and all of that stress and more chill time or flexibility with my time, it's weird. It's still
Mm,
weird. And you said, like, I was gonna feel some differences like 4 to 5 months in, and so it is, I feel like when you just you're like so conditioned that that is like how your life is going to be, and that's just, you work, 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 and then maybe someday, I don't know. It's weird. It's still a transition for me, and I do think like we've gone too far on the other end of the spectrum to where like work is the only purpose, and we're not getting enough balance with life, at least a lot of us. And so I
yeah.
hope, my hope is that Tesla bot can give more people more balance so that they can have more of that chill time. But even the chill time, you almost feel like guilty for it. Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah.
you feel the same way, because you're also, you left Tesla, and obviously your channel's doing great. Congrats on that. But like
Thank you.
you were saying too, like it's just weird, like to like have time. You went to what, Ireland recently or something? Like you've
Yeah,
been
went to Ireland, Cancun,
traveling,
yeah, a bunch of different places in the States.
globetrotting. Like, what do you think about that transition to having more control of your time?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. The guilt behind the chill is legit,
Yeah.
and I feel like I just used a bunch of millennial verbiage there. The guilt behind the chill is legit. My God.
It's so true.
But it's it's reserved for those of us that have the resources to be able to enjoy the chill, right? Like, we're still fortunate enough to have some sort of stability where we're able to pursue our passions.
Right.
I think and that is absolutely, it's a first world problem of the highest degree, right?
Right.
Like, the guilt behind the chill. But where my head goes to is, take where we are now as folks that have been able to sort of achieve this freedom, and put it within the context of somebody who now lives in this plentiful world where you have the bot existing, where your pool of quote unquote jobs that exist today has become minimally reduced. There could be other jobs out there too, unless there is the capability of that person to really take advantage of a very plentiful, very cheap, deflated world of like costs where everything's just super, super cheap. There could be a possibility where people will have no other choice but to chill,
Mhm.
but they can't actually chill because they don't have a means to enjoy what's around them, right? So I think that's a really big variable. So the bot has to be part of the equation that enables all the chill to exist without the crazy thing in the back of your head that says, I'm not going to be able to pay next month's rent. I'm not going to be able to feed my children. I'm not going to be able to survive this winter. I won't be able to. So those things have to be taken care of by the bot, right? And there's got to be a certain level of outcome that has to happen where the bot has infiltrated those industries, and it has lowered the cost so much that those things can exist. And take the phone as an example. The phone, this thing is paid $1,000 for this stupid thing. By the way, this is a picture my wife took of the Milky Way
Wow.
right around here. It was completely incredible. Shout out to my wife. But this thing is $1,000. But 50 years ago, this thing was as big as my house, and it cost like $50 million, right? So that sort of thing has to happen to labor. If
Yeah.
labor doesn't benefit from that from the bot, we might have a very ugly future. But free market sort of economics would point towards the fact that this is the likeliest outcome because every other technology has ridden that curve. Unless there is thing happens where that isn't allowed to happen, and instead you have the bot for the few generating abundance for the few.
Mhm.
That's where it gets super, super ugly and strange and weird. So you can chill, but what's the context of the chill?
Right.
Are you chilling because of survival? Because like literally you can, or are you chilling because there's nothing else for you to do,
Right.
and you can't survive? Like it's, I don't know, man. And I'm an optimistic person, and I think it's a much more likely that the former happens, and as everybody chills because everything costs nothing, and we can just really fulfill our true human spirit. But even if it's 0.1% chance that the other thing could happen, we need to talk about it all the time, because if that happens, we're all screwed. It's over.
Right.
It's it's a million or a billion people in 100 years from now that are alive instead of 1 trillion, or I don't know what that number could be, right? Yeah, I don't know. It's both incredibly exciting and incredibly scary at the same time for me.
Yeah. Wow. I know there is
Sorry.
a little bit of fear and reservation. I mean, it's definitely exciting, but could we look back on that day and be like, oh my gosh, that was the beginning of something that we can't even expect yet.
Sure.
So I don't know if I'm saying this right. Wariston, thank you for the super chat. People are wanting to do a Q&A, but I really do want to talk to you just about Starlink in Iran right now. What is your personal connection to that story?
Yeah, no, thank you for asking. So, for those that don't know, I think a lot of people that read my name that are familiar with sort of Persians and Iranians have figured out that I'm Persian. So, my parents are both from Iran. They were both born in Iran. Excuse me. And and half of my family, my mom's side of the family, are all in Iran essentially. So, and for those that are not familiar, Iran had a revolution back in 1979 where a lot of things led to that point, but ever since then, Iran has been ruled by a pretty extreme type of government where it's driven primarily through extreme religious ideology. A lot could argue it's not even the teachings of the religion, but they're being interpreted in a certain way that's quite oppressive to many. So women, especially. So women in Iran don't have nearly as many freedoms as they do in a lot of the Western world, especially here in the States. Cover your hair, cover your body, right? You can, show your face, whatever. But it's very restrictive. It's very male dominated. So there's quite a bit of a patriarchy going on in that specific society, as many other societies are in the Middle East. But it's crazy because Iran, before that time, it was quite free and quite open. Before that, it was a very, call it, westernized society before that government took over. And if you go on Google and you pull up pictures from Iran from say 1970 or something, it looks like the States. It's pretty wild. There's like women in bikinis on the beach. It's wild. Now a lot of people could argue that wasn't available for a lot of people. There were still some weaknesses when it came to how the government ruled. But regardless, the point where we are now is that there's a lot of people that have very little economic means to really make something happen for themselves. Women don't have nearly as many freedoms as they should, which is all of them, like men. But both parties are suffering in a lot of ways, and it's coming to the point now where there's a lot of. I think the people are really starting to rise up, and they're sick of it. They're truly trying to move towards what they want their future to become, and not sort of be beholden to this regime that's quite suppressive. So what's cool about the Starlink thing is that if you think back to, I forget exactly when the last time this happened in Iran, but about a decade ago, maybe longer, this sort of thing happened already in Iran, where the people were getting sick of the regime, and they tried to rise up and demonstrate, but then they were viciously killed. A lot of people died trying to rise up, and then the government quelled a lot of that uprising. And the reason why is because the government cut out a lot of communication channels for the people to organize. So essentially, people became blind and they didn't know what was going on. And before you knew it, people just started disappearing and dying. And nobody knew why. But now what could be different with Starlink is, since, for those that are not familiar, Elon activated Starlink for Iran, which means that if you have the ability to get your hands on a receiver, theoretically, if the government starts shutting down communication channels, you can still communicate with each other, which means that you can organize and make stuff happen, whatever that means. So that's a huge deal this time. This
Right.
variable was not available last time when this happened. The complexity is that you got to get receivers into the country in some shape or form so that the people can use Starlink. But the Iranian people are very crafty. There is a gigantic black market for basically everything that is not allowed in that country. So there is ways to get stuff into the country. I have no idea how, but they figure it out. But that becomes it becomes a huge variable for the people, and it's really cool to see somebody that you're sort of passionate about, Elon and his sort of the stuff he's doing for humanity. Yet another layer of sort of good that he's doing for people that I'm personally tied to, that reinforces the idea that this guy is out there trying to do good for humanity. And it's great to see. Makes me very, very happy. But there is still needs to be a lot to be done as far as that technology being useful for those people. They need to get those receivers. And yeah.
It seems a little unclear because I've tried to read, current articles about what exactly is going on. I mean, we saw that Elon tweeted he's activating Starlink in Iran, but it seems a little bit confusing as to if it's actually working. I saw something about some like app that was malicious, that people were confused on how to download the Starlink. And
Mm,
then, there's like a WSJ article, but I sometimes hesitate trusting them. So, but
sure.
that article is saying that they're having trouble setting this up. So, do you know anything more about if it's actually working?
Not really. No, I don't
Yeah,
have much exposure. The whole Iran thing has been, I think, criminally underreported in the
yeah,
media.
yeah.
Criminally underreported, which is a shame. But we can see it happening through Twitter, and I hear stories through my family and whatnot. But I have no idea. I have no idea how it's working, if it's working. The key thing here is that receivers have to make it into the country for
Right.
them to be able to utilize Starlink. Maybe there's a portion of the population that thought they can download an app on their phone and they can get access to Starlink, and that app is probably a scam of some sort. Maybe the government developed that app to track people and they started freaking killing them. I have no freaking idea. The government has done some pretty savage stuff for that country, for those people, for sure. Unfortunately, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the true thing is that's going on in that country right now. I just hope the people are able to um, make their future into what they want it to be, and that requires a certain level of freedom, and a different way. I think they need some sort of different way, in my opinion. So we'll see. We'll see if that comes to fruition or not, and hopefully they seize the moment and make something happen.
Well, Farzad, maybe you can address this comment from Joe there on the screen. Talk about the government in Iran treating both men and women of the, is it Baha'i?
Baha, yeah.
Baha'i faith with equal amount of oppression. The Baha'i are the second largest religion in
Yeah,
Iran.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. So there's a subpopulation in Iran that's a part of a Baha'i faith that are they're not treated very well. A lot of people are not treated well in that country. A lot of people are not treated well in that country. You have to be part of a certain say group of class that's religiously tied to the government of a specific type of faith, where you get say preferential treatment or you get some sort of advancement in society. Yeah, there's a lot of oppression in that country, unfortunately, and hopefully the people that want change are the majority and they're able to make it happen. And I do think that they'll probably have to overcome a lot of violence to make it happen. I don't think this is going to be a sort of a revolution that could happen that may allow the people to sort of rise up and take over without some casualties, unfortunately. But that's just a sad reality that we're in. And and I do try to, you know, I do have family there, and I want to make sure
Yeah.
that they're as safe as possible as well. But I do think, I don't know. I do think there's this seems to be a different vibe about this one. I think, and hopefully that people can achieve their
Yeah.
dreams.
Are you worried about your family there?
Not necessarily, uh, personally, but I do think, you know, if it depends how crazy this thing get. And again, this is very underreported. The Iran is one of those countries that I don't think it's well understood by a lot of the media or people, because it has exited a lot of people's minds. But I would highly recommend, if people want to get more exposed to what the real Iran is like. Anthony Bourdain, before he passed away, he has a documentary series. I think it was called No Reservations, but I think he did a multiple piece on his travels to Iran. And so, so what he did, he went in and he just kind of got to know the culture, the people. I heavily recommend people check out that little documentary series to start getting a vibe of what Iran is really like. It's very different than what people think. It's a lot more societally advanced than and much more, I guess, quote unquote Western that people realize. It's just ruled by a regime that is of a different time. Let's just put it that way.
Miguel says it's working. There are photos of someone operating it in Iran.
Fantastic.
And going ballistic motion says how to hide dishes from authorities.
They'll figure it out.
They'll figure it out.
Yeah, Iranian people are freaking. When I tell you they're crafty, man. Like sometimes they're a little like Persians are my favorite people, but some of the biggest shysters that I know are also Persian because they're freaking crafty. You know, like they're super crafty. So they'll figure it out. That is the least of the worries. I think as long as they can figure out how to get into the country, the rest will work out.
Right. Yeah, Bobby said it all started when the government killed a woman for improper dress. Archaic. Yes. Yeah, so this was a 22-year-old woman in police custody, and obviously more people have died now. I mean, imagine like the bravery that I just, it sounds so scary to me, but yeah.
It's two drastically different types of cultures that have been fighting each other for quite a few decades. Let's just say the people that are visible, that want change, have been speaking out about this for the longest time, and the ruling class is very much saying, no, this is the way we have to live. We have to live by these teachings, which in my opinion, again, are misrepresented of what the actual teachings are. I'm not a religious person, FYI. I'm not saying like I don't want to set any agenda or anything, but I want to paint a picture of what the dynamic is like in that country. And I think the people have a chance to again seize what they want for their future, and have it more directly aligned with the will of the people versus the will of the few.
Now, I don't want this conversation, I told you this before we started talking, I don't want it to get too political. However, sure, with Starlink being activated kind of in a lot of different situations right now, and with Elon, having over 107 million followers on Twitter now, and really just tweeting a lot of things that are on his mind. I'm just curious from your perspective, do you think that this is, what is your reaction to SpaceX and Elon getting kind of really intermingled in a lot of these politics? It seems like it's really polarizing right now. And obviously not a lot of CEOs would take that strategy, but do you as someone who worked for him, and he probably wasn't this vocal before, right, like, what is your reaction to all of this?
I think it's he's a very unorthodox person, from the sense that he doesn't act like anyone else in that position, because what he does is very risky. It's polarizing. It opens the window up to be misinterpreted, disliked, bring the wrong kind of attention, say something that's incorrect that could have drastic consequences, shows a part of you that maybe a lot of your fan base doesn't like. It has a host of really bad things attached to it, right?
Puts a target on your head, affects the stock. Yep. I mean, it's like all of these cascade effects, right. And I said I didn't want to talk about it, but I do a little bit, and I'm curious for you guys in the comments. I feel like we can't ignore it. No,
it's impossible to ignore. And I think a certain level of of criticism and goodwill is helpful, but
Mhm.
ultimately for me, I think what it really speaks to is that we have a person in time that has a gigantic amount of power and money
Yeah.
and is acting in the way that he thinks is best for humanity in his own way.
Right.
And what that means within the context of his actions are his actions, I guess, you know? So, and people in that type of role, like I said, their goal is to completely minimize risk to a point that it does nothing, that whatever they do has nothing but positive effects for the story of that they're trying to build, for the companies that they're trying to build, because that is the way to become as successful as possible in a capitalistic society where you have to return value to your investors. That's just facts, right? Elon doesn't give a shit about money. This is what I get from this. He truly doesn't give a crap. He doesn't care about his money. He doesn't. I don't think he cares too much about your money a little bit, which I think somebody could say that's messed up. I totally get that. You know, if you're somebody who's quote unquote playing the game of the investing game and you're deciding to part way with part of your net worth and invest it in this person, that this person is not acting in the best faith of you, then I think there's valid criticism that says, person like Elon, why are you doing this to my money? You're allowing me to invest in your money. You are not handling my money properly. I completely understand that criticism. Where I come from is that I think we are now transitioning into a day and age where we have a very unique person in time that is acting extremely unorthodox in a very unorthodox manner. But I think that's the type of person that exists that's able to make that kind of change. I don't think you get an Elon that makes SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, Boring Company, and all these things together unless that person is unique. And what does it mean for that person to be unique? He's going to say shit that's going to piss people off. Excuse me. He's going to say stuff that's going to piss people off. It's part of the game. It's part of what Elon is. And I don't think of him as any better or worse as a human being. I just think he's an individual who's not afraid to be an individual. And he's got a gigantic megaphone, and it doesn't seem like the size of the megaphone is really impacting his fear of saying a certain thing
Wow.
or whatever else. So that's how I think about it. And honestly, like, I don't know what to make of it. Like
Yeah.
it's I'm
I
not
don't.
questioning my investment at all. Like if that's kind of what we're sort of maybe the next tier of the conversation is, I'm not second guessing my investments. Like as somebody who's invested in Elon,
Yeah.
no, I don't second guess my investments because I think the net effect of his existence and how he's performing and what he does for society is positive. There's this scale of white and black, and I think a lot of people are always want to put white or black on people, but the reality is everything is gray. Like the whole world is gray. Everything that ever existed is gray. Humans are gray, meaning that there is shades to how we are and who we are and how we act. I like to think that Elon Musk is closer to the white, like the good, if you want to call white the good. It's closer to the white side, like the good side, or if you want to make the black side the good side, whatever the spectrum is, right? But I think he's closer to good than he is to bad. And there is no absolute good or absolute bad.
Mhm.
And as long as that stays true for me, where I think Elon is net positive to the world, then I'm going to perhaps accept some of his weaknesses or how he approaches certain things. But that's who people are. You know, that's what people are. And it's fascinating. It's crazy. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. Yeah.
I do want to. A lot of people want to do the Q&A with you. So if you
Sure.
guys want to drop your comments, I just wanted to, start with those two discussions, and we can of course build on those.
Sure.
Yeah, Sheldon Smith says most great minds of history were a little weird, and Bobby says Elon cuts through the fakers with plain talk. I agree.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Any questions for Farzad?
Drop them in the comment section below, y'all.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so Rich in Vancouver says adopting FSD to the bot using the same vision system seems relatively straightforward. Put FSD in 160,000 cars and learn. Put bot FSD in thousands of bots at Tesla plants and repeat.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So I think that speaks to the flexibility of the vision system and the architecture that Tesla has built from the perspective of navigating the real world. And the fact that they can use the same architecture to navigate a car through space or navigate a bot through space speaks to how capable that system is. And yeah, as long as the bot doesn't think it's as long as the car doesn't think it's a bot and it starts to walk
Yeah.
and the tires fall off. Obviously, I'm like making a joke here because that's literally impossible. Um, I think it's the right approach and it's going to help them scale the technology really really quickly, and it's going to be exciting to watch.
Jeff wants to know, will the bot drive cars and other equipment?
Um, So I think they might be able to drive equipment where the automation of that equipment is not in the horizon. So I don't think bots will drive cars as an example. I think that is a like you're trying to it's like a putting a round peg in a square hole, right? Why not just use autonomous cars to move those are feature built to do that. I think the amount of work and development time that would be required for a bot to physically know how to move the steering wheel and do the pedals and ensure that the car is driving as well as a full self-driving car, like the juice ain't worth the squeeze. You're better off just ramping up auto cars to just replace every non-autonomous car. I think that would be an easier thing to do than getting the bots to learn driving, in my opinion. I think that solution is a lot harder than people think when you're thinking about like literally manipulating a bot. So, but I could be wrong. About like a forklift, maybe I could see a bot working a forklift. Things like that potentially, yeah. But I think those are like edge case solutions for the bot to resolve. I think non-driving tasks like construction, moving things, building things, maintaining things, those are much more valuable, I think, to society than driving because those already have purpose-built solutions.
Diggs wants to know, how did Farzad get so good?
I love Diggs. It's my mama and my dad, bro. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, here's
I
one
love
from
Diggs.
Gregory in Alaska. Gregory has been a longtime fan of Ellie in Space, so thank you. I appreciate you.
Shout
And
out.
he wants to know, how long before bots will have human-like intelligence? Come on, shake your crystal ball.
Let's see. Um, so why would a bot need human-like intelligence? I guess was where my head goes to. I don't know how much bots benefit from having human-like intelligence. I think the context of human-like intelligence, uh, maybe Gregory can help us understand this better. Like, are we saying that? Are we thinking like emotionally intelligent?
Yeah,
Right?
that's what I
Is that
was.
maybe what the question is? Um, if we're talking about as emotionally intelligent as a human, or let me rephrase it, at a point where it could be a companion to a human, whatever that means. I think that's. I would be shocked if it's any sooner than 20 years from now. If it's any sooner than 20 years from now, um, I would be surprised. But I'm not an expert. I'm just talking out of my ass. But maybe 20 years from now is how I'm thinking about it.
But you did work for Tesla, so you know. Warren wants to know, what is the hardest hurdle that Tesla has to overcome to adapt FSD software source code to bots?
I don't know. That's a very technical question. That's probably a better question for James Dalma or John, Doctor Know It All, or those guys. I have no idea.
Leave a comment. I've never interviewed James. I kept seeing him at AI Day, but I was just so, I don't know, in the moment that I didn't say hi to him yet. But do you guys want me to interview him? Because I will definitely reach out to him. Let me know below if you want me to interview James or Dr. Know It All too.
What was it like, real quick, if I can ask you, what was the experience like actually getting to converse with Elon for a little bit? Like, were you surprised by anything?
So Yes, and I learned a little bit more after the fact of how, I guess, kind of rare or lucky I got. Um, obviously I wasn't expecting to get into the event. So getting in was already like magical. I'm on cloud nine. I'm not supposed to be here. What's going on? Which again, I did get like an official ticket emailed to me. I didn't break in or anything, but they changed their rules last minute. So
They
it
know you
worked
were
in my
coming.
favor. It worked in my favor to drive there. What was that?
They knew you were coming.
They knew I was coming, I guess. It was wild. Anyway, I was already like really just excited to be in there and seeing it. But then I thought, man, I've been to 3 Tesla events this year: Cyber Rodeo, the shareholders meeting, and now this.
Wow.
I've had all of this potential access to Elon. But the thing is, like, when Elon finishes up his speech, he's gone.
He's out.
He's not like mingling. There was one woman there. She kept saying, I'm from Google, but I want to work for Tesla, all this stuff. And she was like, where's the line to take pictures with Elon? And I was like, man, that line doesn't exist. Like, we'd be here all night. That's not a thing. So anyway, so I think I was just so focused on trying to make that interaction happen because I knew there was like this very small window that I had a chance. And so he went off stage initially, immediately, and behind a curtain, and I'm not going to go back there, but then they came out to take group photos. And I was like, okay, maybe if someone ran up to the stage with a poster and a marker, and then someone said, can I take a picture with you? And he said, no, if I start to take pictures, it's going to get nutty.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
that's me with my Tesla bot, and I'm like here, and I sound like a little kid. I'm like at a loss for words. I got this for you. He was like confused at first, but then to my surprise, he like crouched down to my level and did his little goofy faces with me, and like actually took some time to pose with me. And of course, as a reporter, I'm like already filming on my phone in one hand and interacting in the other. So I guess like what it was like, I think, obviously I still would love to interview the man, but just to get that opportunity and know that he's not always wanting to do that because it does cause a frenzy. I felt like very grateful that he gave me the time of day, especially because I feel like I was a little bit, I don't know, like at a loss for words. So I wasn't exactly my
Understandable.
confident self. Hey, I'm Ellie in space. I was like, what? So it was cool. But I think he's nice, and I don't know. It was so not meant to be on paper. Like everything looked like there was no way that was going to happen. That it's almost like it was meant to be because it happened. Or we're in a simulation. That's my.
Yeah.
Sorry, I feel like I'm rambling here.
No, you're good. I saw your picture. I was like, man, I'm so happy for her because I know this has probably meant a lot. So yeah, it was awesome to see.
Yeah, it was wild. Okay, John Bay actually says, question for Ellie. You saw rocket launch, met Elon. What's next? What's next? I really hope to get that interview with Elon. I'm going to put like the goal of within the year. I think that's fair.
Hell yeah.
So yeah,
it's going to happen.
My vision
Manifest
board,
it. Manifest. Yeah.
Fake vision board. I should make a vision board now. Is to interview Elon within the year, but also, for example, this October. So this month, I will be going to the Ascend conference. That is a space conference in Las Vegas, and the president of SpaceX will be there, Gwen Shotwell. So I have definitely. I made it a goal actually at the beginning of this year to travel every single month for the channel, and I've pretty much stayed true to that goal the entire year, which means that I've been traveling a lot.
Congratulations. No, that's huge.
Yeah. But thank you for the question. I appreciate that. Let's see. Okay, let me see. Oh my God. I don't think I should put up that question.
You're always playing with fire when you go live.
I know. Thaddeus wants to know for Farzad, does Iran control smartphones? How useful would Starlink V2 be in this situation?
Extremely. Yeah, they do. They have very tight controls around communications. They can essentially shut down the internet if they want to. That the internet that is controlled by the country, like all the towers and whatnot. But if there is a way to connect directly to, say, a Starlink satellite without having to go through the typical channels you would have to go through to communicate with one another and utilize the internet within the country, and it's just beamed to the satellite and the satellite moves their stuff around, then yeah, that would completely bypass everything. Starlink is a game-changing technology, like so freaking game-changing for freeing the world and people from governments that control how people communicate. It is a gigantically game-changing technology. The question becomes, how much of a risk does that become to Elon personally to be part of that, for governments that are willing to go the extra mile to ensure that that doesn't happen by eliminating the source. But my thing is if God forbid anything ever happens to Elon, knock on wood, because of how passionate he is about bringing this to the world, I still think this gets done regardless, because the floodgates have opened. So the eventual outcome of people having the ability to freely communicate from each other will happen regardless. It's just a question of who's going to be there at the end. And I think Elon will be there, but I'm hoping that there aren't governments out there that view this as a truly dangerous proposition for their survival, and they do the unthinkable. At which point, God, that's going to create so much chaos. I can't even begin to explain it, but I don't think that's the likeliest outcome. Yeah.
Philip wants to know, has Elon said he wants AGI or just real world AI?
I think he said both. I think he said real world AI will be the short term thing, and then eventually AGI. I think he's openly said that Tesla has all the pieces to eventually get to true AGI, and they're one of the pioneers to get there. It's going to take a long time, but you don't need AGI to make society 100 times more efficient or more able to create value for itself. You don't need AGI for that. You can just use very advanced AI. Humans are not very good at stuff. We're not. Like, the computer is a perfect example of that. Before the computer came, could you imagine working at a place where you didn't have a computer, and what it means for like record keeping, calculation? Like Microsoft Excel back in 1950 would have been like God came down to earth and he gave you the best, or she gave you the best technology of all time. It would have been absolutely incredible. But Excel, compared to the AI systems we have today, is archaic. It's nothing. But it made humans, I would argue, hundreds of thousands of times more capable than they were before. We just need very good AI. And very good AI is going to completely transform the world. And then AGI is, I don't know what the hell it's going to do. AGI gets crazy. It gets wild.
A little scary.
Yeah.
So I want to try to pull up, following the Crew 5 mission. I actually live streamed yesterday. The first time I've ever live streamed a launch. And
how was that?
It was fun. It was fun. I was surprised like some people came, because obviously there's like NASA and SpaceX, which I figured would be more desirable streams to watch. But thank you to everyone who showed up for Ellie in Space. But I do want to try to pull up and screen share here. So maybe you can do a little tap dance for a second while I
yeah.
Maybe you can tell people, okay, how do I switch it to just you?
So you got to share the screen first.
Oh, well, I have to pull up the video. So maybe you can tell people what your favorite interview is that you've done recently that they should go watch right now.
Oh man.
That you've done recently.
Oops. So an interview that I've done recently, so all my interviews I deeply enjoy, because I always get to speak with very, very smart, interesting people. There was one we did very recently this week where I had Gary Black, Ross Gerber, and Alexandra Mertz all on the same panel. So it was the four of us together. And Gary and Ross were together in a room in California. And then Alexandra and I were, in different parts of the world. Excuse me. And we spoke for 2 hours, and we hit so many different topics. But it was such a fun conversation, because we got we had the ability to kind of see and explore Gary's and Ross's thinking around Tesla. And then Alexandra was asking them a lot of awesome questions regarding to around the finance world, and which is something I'm not super familiar with. So it was a very fascinating discussion. So go check that out. Ross Gerber, Gary Black, Alexander Mertz, and I.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's an
What a
awesome,
plug.
awesome lineup. I know. Okay, so it looks like we're pretty close to this docking. I figured, you're into SpaceX too.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
let's see here.
I
But
like it.
yeah, so we'll just, I think we're about what, 7 minutes out? I mean, how exciting. Did you follow
So
much of
exciting.
the launch yesterday, the Crew 5?
I didn't follow it directly, but I was quite busy yesterday. But I knew it happened. I knew that they launched successfully, and this is what their 5th crew mission.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, crazy.
And I was supposed to be there, but then the hurricane happened, and so I was thinking it was delayed a little bit, but I was thinking it was going to be delayed a whole lot more, and I wasn't sure about flying into Florida, and I was ultimately glad that I chose not to go because I went to AI Day instead.
Yes.
So, but yeah, this is
for sure.
We'll just be able to pull that up once it gets going.
Look
here.
at you already getting all comfortable with live streams.
I regret not doing these more regularly sooner. I think you guys enjoy these, some of you guys are here. We appreciate you showing up. But I just think it's a great way to interact with my subscribers, and it's kind of fun to be off the cuff and not so polished. That's also, I think, a little bit why it's more nerve-wracking.
Sure.
But it's not my first rodeo. I was on TV news for 8 years. So
I think folks really appreciate the vulnerability aspect of interacting with like people they follow. It's what I found is the best way for me to connect with people is to make sure they know that I am kind of an idiot. Like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I am very unpolished. And I don't know. I think being vulnerable is one of the most powerful human traits in order to create relationships and meaningful relationships, and really showing that, hey, like, even though I'm doing this thing that you might think is cool, like I am not that different from you at all. Like all of us share a lot of things together. And I think live streams are the best way to make that come across. And it's so cool. It's so fun. It's so fun.
I've also been shocked at the generosity of some people that just super chat, and it's like, oh my gosh, that completely made my day. And it's
so many kind
really
people.
Kind of you guys. Oh, and apparently I'm really bad at translating East Coast time. We're actually like an hour away. So if you guys want to watch that, set your timers, because they'll be docking soon. And this is, an interesting mission. Well, they're always interesting, but of the 4 astronauts, one of them, Nicole Mann, she's the first Native American woman in space, and also the first woman to command a Crew Dragon capsule. So
badass.
Awesome. Yeah.
Badass. Super cool.
So let's see. Okay. Someone says that I need to give more notice for my live streams. I did do it on Twitter. Maybe the community tab on YouTube. Some people are saying
if you created it, it should have just popped up on everyone's home screen, I think. Okay. The second you created. So
does it? Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. There is a chance it didn't show up on your subscribers feed for whatever reason, but they should come up. They should just pop up once you create the instance on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. One thing I do want to, this is like totally a random tangent, but we're live and it doesn't matter.
Sure.
The points are made up or the rules are made up and the points don't matter, right? Whose line is it anyway?
Whose line? Yeah.
Such a good show. One interesting like evolution that I've had since leaving TV news and going full-time on YouTube is I'm wearing a lot less makeup. And part of this is because I had so many people complaining, which was like actually not the reason I should stop wearing it. But in TV news, I wore so much makeup because I thought that's what you had to do as an anchor and whatever. And so when I met Elon, wasn't wearing the fake eyelashes. I haven't been wearing face makeup for months and months and months now. So anyway, that's just been, I want to thank you guys really, even though, it's been kind of in the form of complaints. It's just weird. It's weird to have my own
Yeah.
little like personal evolution like that. But
Yeah. I think
okay.
I think it's interesting you bring that up because it's like I feel like and I talk to my wife about this often. Like I feel like women are oftentimes judged very unfairly on their looks, much more than men would. I think folks are much more critical. Like I never have anyone saying anything about my appearance. Very, very, very rarely, if ever. And I think that's kind of fucked up. So
Yeah,
excuse
yeah.
me, screwed up. My apologies. But
Fudged up.
and fudged up. And I'm not saying this to just blow up, smoke up anyone's ass, but my God, like I can't stop. All right,
Are you
let me
okay?
just let me make my point. Um, I think we'd all be better off if we just like don't worry about how anybody looks, just listen and see what message they're conveying. And people are free to have their own opinions about whatever they want, but like
Right.
if it's not productive, like why say something,
Right.
so anyway.
Well, I mean, that's just not going to work on the internet. That's a
I
great
know.
theory, but I just don't think that's how the internet works. Larson says
Unfortunately,
science
true.
doesn't need makeup, and that is just a great way to put it. It doesn't. Um, yeah. So someone's mad that we're off topic already. So no more makeup talk. I just wanted to share that because I myself was a little surprised that after going years and years thinking I cannot be seen to the world without fake eyelashes, to literally taking a photo with my idol with no stupid fake eyelashes. All right,
There
I'm
you
done.
go. Hell yeah.
Anyway, okay, so read Sapiens, got that.
Yes.
I need to get that book. And yeah, like seeing this excitement and development of Tesla Bot, does it almost make you want to go back, or nah, you'll watch?
Oh man. I get that question so often, dude. It's like anytime
Really?
Tesla does something awesome, it's like, oh, you wish you were there? Well, of course I wish I was there. Of course, like why wouldn't you want to be part of being something super awesome? But I think the thing for me is like, yes, I wish I was there, but I think what I'm doing now I enjoy more. I think what I'm doing now, of the freedom that I have, I think I'm starting to figure out what my purpose is in life. I think I'm starting to finally, almost a year removed from intense work, not just at Tesla, but before that, right? For like a decade plus of just going as hard as I possibly could, of what really makes me fulfilled and what I think my purpose is for the world. And I think I'm getting closer to that. And that has been way more rewarding than anything I've ever done in my life.
Mhm.
And am I not building really cool stuff or helping build really cool stuff with the world's greatest company? No, I'm not. But I was, and I
Yeah,
did,
yeah,
right? So I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. And I think there was an unhealthy level of sort of self attachment to that in a way where I was like identifying myself as just a Tesla worker or part of the Tesla mission, which is amazing. But I'm more than that. And
yeah,
everyone's more than that.
yeah,
Elon's more than that. That's why he's got SpaceX and other things, right? So, yeah, I wish I wish I was part of it, but I think what I'm doing now is, to me, is more important, and it's, I think, more fulfilling. And I'm very thankful to have been able to find this path.
I
Yeah.
never asked you this. Like, run me through what a typical day working for Tesla. Like, what time did you get up? What was kind
Oh
of
shit.
like
Yeah.
daily grind?
Yeah. So the first 2 years I was there were by far the most intense. So that was getting up at 6 a.m., getting to the facility by 7 a.m. Then from the second you get in, you're putting out fires until 10 p.m. And then so you're working from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., 6 to 7 days a week. And every single bit of work you did was painful because it was like existential. Like, if we don't fix this now, it's going to break. If we don't make this faster, we're going to break. If we don't make this thing happen, we're going to break. Because everything was moving so fast and everything was coming at you at a trillion miles an hour. And it just felt like you were walking a tightrope. that needed to be like figured out. Otherwise, it's going to be a catastrophe. But that's what it means to be in the fastest growing company in the world that does some of the hardest work. That's just what it is. That's what it is. That's how it works. So imagine working as hard as you can for 8 to 10 hours, and you're doing work that's not necessarily fun. But it has to get done. And then on the 10th hour, something breaks that is way harder to solve than anything else you've already done in the day. You're mentally drained, burnt out, and then you have to put in an additional 4 or 5 hours of your day, of your mental capability to solve that extremely hard thing that is way harder than whatever you had to do for the rest of the day. It was like that for 2 years straight. And I think a lot of folks at Tesla is probably how they would explain that, is that it was extremely brutal work, but it had to get done. And once you, yeah, go ahead.
How much did that impact your personal relationships and your outside of work life? I feel like if you're tired and stressed and overworked, did it?
Yeah. I had to make a very big effort to ensure that my relationships didn't get impacted dramatically. So I saw my wife way less, you know? So every time I got home, my wife and I would sit down for 2 hours before bed and just talk. And that's all I did. Talk. I hung out way less with my friends, way less. I saw my family way less. I was significantly more tired and stressed, you know? But for me, it was anytime we were able to solve those really difficult problems, the feeling of overcoming and solving was such a rush, and it felt so good that pain almost became addictive. Like you're like, well, this means that I'm going to reach a point where it's like a climax. Wow, we made it happen. And you get to celebrate with your team for 2 hours. And then the next thing breaks. And then you got to fix that, right? So, but I don't think that's necessarily unique to Tesla. I think anybody who has worked in a very strenuous startup or trying to build something from scratch, that's probably the type of story they'll tell you, is that a huge majority of the time it sucks. But it doesn't suck because the workplace treats you poorly or because, you know, they're working you to death. It's because the things that you have to solve are extremely difficult. And it's done from scratch. And that's just what it takes, you know? And I'm sure some people that went through that experience probably were burnt out. There you go. How did they not burn out?
Exactly.
Some did, for sure.
Was your departure burnout, or was it something else?
No, I would say it was more that I reached a natural part. I think I reached a natural end of my time at Tesla. There was a chapter that I closed. We built this incredible team. We got this distribution network set up. New leaders came in that are now doing an incredible job. And they were going to take it a completely different direction, the correct one, but they're taking it into a different direction, which literally, like, they asked me, do you want to be part of this direction? We need your help. And I said, you know what? I think it's time for me to allow the rest of the group to take this to the next direction. And the fact that I had financial stability at that point, that my wife and I don't have kids and we can go out to travel, I was like, you know what? This is like the perfect time for me to say, next generation, take over. Even though I very well could have embarked and continue to create incredible things for the company and benefit from that in many ways, I was like, no, this is like, how much more do I need? How much more do I need? Let me figure myself out, you know, for the next year or 2 or 5, however long it takes, and see where it takes me. So it's not an easy place to work. And Tesla is so very not shy about letting you know that it's not an easy place to work. Like the interview process, dude, it's like, you know what you're getting yourself into, right? Yep. I do. You know, you're gonna work like crazy, right? Like literally, my interview when I met my two quote unquote bosses that I was going to work with, like I showed up to the interview. They showed up 5 minutes late, and they're both drenched in sweat, just sweating profusely, profusely. And they're like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "What's up?" They're like, "Hi, you know, I'm Greg. I'm blah blah blah." All right, cool. So why do you want to join Tesla? And then they're just bang, 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 question. And I'm like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. I want to be part of it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And that's the swagger I was talking to you about at the very beginning. Is like you could tell like these people are proud of what they do, man. Like there's a certain level of pride that goes into it that says, I know I'm doing really hard work that sucks a lot of the time, but I'm doing it because it's important and I enjoy it. And
Okay,
in
but
some sick, crazy way. Yeah.
why were they drenched in sweat? What are they doing?
Because you have to wear a lot of different hats when you're working at Tesla. So we worked in the warehouse, sort of part of the company,
Yeah.
and this is like the warehouse supervisor and manager that are interviewing me, but they're not just leading the teams and doing spreadsheets or talking on the phone. They're out there picking, they're moving stuff, they're helping build things physically. Like
Well, this
everyone's
was
so
before Giga Texas. Which location? Because you weren't.
Oh, this is Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, this is Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Gotcha.
That's what the first 2 years of my time was at Tesla, was a lot of like I was an analyst and I came in like from a computer, I was like this. I was a typer dude that programmed stuff. And then by the time I left Tesla, I can probably build a warehouse from scratch and do all that analytical stuff. Like the amount of on-hands experience you get to the different parts of the company is completely nuts. And it doesn't matter if you're blue collar, white collar, or what type of background you have. If you can be useful in a role, you'll be useful in a role. And Tesla opens the ability for you to be part of that solution. That's what's so beautiful about Tesla's culture, is that I think the way that people that will negatively frame it is that, well, they work people to death. That's not, in my opinion, that's not at all what happens. Is that people can be part of a very big solution, but that solution requires a ton of work. And Tesla's very open about that. And for those that don't want to be part of the work, they don't have to be. But the deal is that if you're not part of it, then you're going to be relegated to some boring job, or you're just not going to make it. That's just how it is. That's what a very fast moving company is. And as the company has gotten bigger, what I noticed is that it became much more streamlined, much better in the sense that the work-life balance became much more achievable. So by the time I left, I wasn't working 80 to 100 hours. I was working 40 to 60 hours. And we had a leadership team and a team that was built that was much more efficient in a sense, because now we know what we're doing. So, yeah.
I asked you this the last time I interviewed you, but for the people who didn't hear your answer, which do you think is harder to work for, SpaceX or Tesla?
I never worked for SpaceX. I don't know.
Can't say.
I don't know. I would say they're probably both very similar.
Yeah.
I would say SpaceX, you probably have to wear more hats because the company just has less people. Whereas in Tesla, perhaps you can delegate a little bit more. But that's just me trying to come to a conclusion without actually having worked at SpaceX. So, yeah, I don't know.
All right, let's throw Neuralink in there. No, I'm kidding. Bobby wants to know, have you heard anything about Elon's forever battery development? Also, great show, Ellie. Thank you.
I have not. I don't even know what that reference is, unfortunately.
All right, Bobby, maybe give us more context, because I don't think I know about that one either. Thought you would know. Okay, let's see. Okay, question for Farzad. Does that type of work environment translate to Tesla energy?
Yeah, I thought that sort of culture of like allowing everyone to be part of a very difficult solution, I found that it was present with all the all the teams that I worked with. But again, I worked in a sub-segment of the company. You have to remember, Tesla is 100,000 plus people. Mm-hmm. So I personally interacted with. So my team was 80 to 100 by the time I left. And then the auxiliary teams are probably another 100. So 200 people max, and Tesla's 100,000. So that's less than 1%, right? 0.2% of the company I interacted with. So I can say for the circles that I was a part of, I saw that. And maybe a bit of my pride says that our teams were the best at it, perhaps. But I did think that culture was present everywhere. I don't think we would have been able to exist within that framework unless it was available everywhere, or at least in some sort, majority of the people would be able to take it, be part of that type of culture.
Awesome. And you're living, how far are you from Giga Texas?
like 40 minutes. Yeah. And I want to make something extremely clear. So what I say is my experience. I am not, in no way do I want to be the voice for every single Tesla employee. This was my experience. So if people want to learn more about what it's really like to work at Tesla, talk to other people that work at Tesla. See what you hear. This was my experience, you know, but Tesla's 100,000 people plus, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. Sorry, my cat is.
No, you're good.
Honestly, I think I need to lock him up during these live streams because he'll scratch at the door, but he's so, and his claws are too long and he's scratching me. Yeah, Rolf says lots of positive talk for a former employed. So it sounds like overall you have good things to say.
I think the interesting last comment from Gazmend Kose, as a SpaceX employee, going to work right now, listening to you guys, I would say SpaceX, you do wear a closet full of hats every day. SpaceX is where Model 3 ramp was for Tesla. Okay,
I love
cool.
That.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for the insight.
So that person's working real hard right now.
also, yeah, when I hear that SpaceX employees are like watching my channel, I'm like, uh-oh, like, am I doing okay? Yeah. Are you guys approving of it? I actually, when I was at AI Day, a couple Tesla employees told me that they love my channel, and I was like, yes.
Fantastic.
Good.
You do really good work, Ellie. You do great work. You really do.
Thank you. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I love being in this community.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't want to take too much of your time. So I'd say another 10 more minutes.
Sure.
So get your lightning round questions in. Another super chat. Thank you so much from Warriston. Farzad, your best moments, achievements at Tesla, and your worst, only if you want.
Oh boy, I can give you both.
Okay.
Yeah. So my best moment, in my opinion, and I'll be as brief as I humanly can. There was a moment in time while I was there where there was a certain thing that was trying to be built for our process that would, quote unquote, increase quality, but make our production go down by like 50%. And we were being forced to figure out how to make it work. And it was a complete and utter disaster. It like physically hurt my soul because we had made so much progress. And then there was this thing that was trying to be put in place that would completely dismantle all the progress we made. And I was trying so hard to stop it and it just wouldn't happen. So we went, I won't say the word I because it was more than me. It was many people, but I try to lead the effort to the best of my abilities. We went behind people's backs to just do it our way anyway. And then once we unveiled it in front of a group of, say, 20 people, the person, which, by the way, I really respect. I'm not saying that they're bad people or bad leaders. I'm just saying in this specific situation, I believe that it was the incorrect call. We sat in front of a group of 20, 30 people, and then we unveiled our process that we were doing. And then the person that was trying to drive us that way, in front of a group of people, they essentially forced us to run through the process live while they're hammering us as to why we're doing it. And by the end of it, they're like, oh, no, okay, that makes sense. Okay, everyone else do that. So like we were, yeah, exactly. And it was like, oh, I've never felt so good in my life. I went from a moment of like terror and like existential crisis to just elation of the highest measure. And they went from like, okay, I'm going to like blow up your spot because you're a moron and how dare you do this, to, okay, you know what? This makes a lot of sense. Everyone else, if you don't get this implemented ASAP, we're going to have an issue. And I'm like, fuck yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That was sick. That was so sick.
You went with your gut and you did it anyway.
We went with our gut. Yeah, we went with our gut and it was quite gutsy. It was very gutsy. Oh man.
Yeah. Wow.
To this day, I still feel anxious about that moment. But that was a career-defining move for me because I think a lot of people I felt like people trusted me already.
Yeah.
But I think that took folks' trusts of my abilities to a completely different level. And it allowed me to really hone in my leadership qualities even more because of that. So I'm eternally grateful for that opportunity. And unless that sort of doubt wasn't there from that person, this would have never happened. So I thank that person as well, because without them being so quote unquote hard-headed in their way, I wouldn't have been able to achieve this, right? So I'm also thankful for that opportunity to do that. The worst thing that ever happened was that I implemented something in the warehouse where I didn't do enough diligence to see how it would impact the process, and I thought it would make it like 30% faster. It ended up making it 50% slower.
Oh,
And a lot of people had to cancel plans, and I ruined people's weekends, and
oh.
like of like 50 to 60 people, and I've never felt worse. And but that was a big learning lesson for me. So I went, I apologized for it. I asked, hey, like we still got to get it done, and I'm really sorry, but I worked my ass off to get it back to where we were. We were able to do it quicker than we thought, but that was that's a moment where you hurt people's trust, right? Like, and I didn't consult enough with the people that were actually doing the process. So what that taught me is you have to make sure you talk to everybody before you put in a thing that you are confident is going to work. Like, you still have to communicate it before you make it happen and make sure that it's going to work. So my hubris was checked.
Right.
And from that point forward, I became much more diligent in ensuring that I'm not going to hurt the livelihoods of people. Like I literally, like, forget hurting people's feelings at work. They literally, their personal lives were impacted, and that was because of me. So yeah.
Oh, but we all make mistakes. I mean,
No,
I
of
have
course.
some
I'll learn from it.
TV news mistakes.
Yeah, I'll learn from it.
Thank you to Bimmer Geezer for the super chat. Ellie, you were the best. Thanks, Farzad. I love your great mind. I love his
Appreciate
great mind
that.
too, which is why I'm so glad he's willing to spend time with us. Seriously, I really feel like for not having like a background in journalism, you do ask really good questions, and I feel like you're just really good at, being conversational and speaking your mind. And I mean, watching you interview people, like you really do, you think like a journalist. And so that's like unexpected for someone who, like, with your background, but you do great. So we all love
Thank you
how
so
real you
much.
are, for real.
Oh my God. You
For
guys are so
real.
sweet. Thank you.
um
Thank you. Thank you.
Tonya Bliss wants to know, and I don't know if you know the answer to this: what is the starting annual salary of a new Tesla employee in AI? How much does a
No
5-year
idea.
Tesla employee in AI make per year? No idea.
I'm not Tesla HR. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I have
there
no
you go.
idea.
Right. And the comment after that was contact HR for current salaries, benefits. I guess I would ask, overall, your experience, how were like the salaries, benefits?
The benefits don't get talked about enough. Tesla had a
Okay.
killer health plan.
Oh,
Killer health plan. Yeah. I think I paid like $25 a month or
oh my
something,
gosh.
and it covered everything. Ellie, it covered everything.
Oh,
Everything. Really good
geez.
paternal leave, maternal leave, childcare. You had like they had this thing called Lyra, which is like for mental health stuff. Like, you had 12 free visits a year with a therapist if you needed it. For like mental health, they had a bunch of other perks. They had perks at work. You could get like, pretty sure I went. We did a comedy show for like 50% off or something. Vacations you can get percentages off, and then stock. I think the thing that gets missed in this equation is that from a salary perspective, you can make an argument that you could find competitors that would pay better, from a guaranteed take home.
Mhm.
But I do think Tesla is quite generous with their stock grants, and you could negotiate for stock.
Yeah.
Like when you join the company. Like, I would encourage people that are looking to join the company, especially if they're joining in a salary role or something that's more tied to, say, engineering or non factory work, because I think those pays are probably very rigid because it's super competitive. You can probably negotiate more stock than you think, and Tesla, I think has more willingness to negotiate from that perspective. So it might be worth a shot. You don't know until you try, and that's my thing. That I always told everybody, even people on my team, I'm like, dude, you don't know until you try. I'm not going to tell you how much I can pay you. You got to tell me what you think you're worth. I'll try my best, but if you think you want more, let me know. I'll try to get it for you.
Look at this
Yeah.
comment: healthcare benefits for the insane. Tesla has it all. Oh my gosh. It makes me wonder, did you guys ever have to do any goofy like team building exercises, or like some weird, like,
No. No.
do an escape room together?
Well, we did it. We actually thought about doing an escape room together, but
Okay.
we ended up, like, we would go bowling, and
Oh,
we would all go hang out. There was this bowling alley with like a bar and stuff, and we would go there, and like, especially after we have like a big win, like we've doubled our production or something. we all of us would go there and just have we would have such heart to heart, like, I can't believe we're doing this together, man. Like, this feels so rewarding, and I get to do it with you, man. You know, like, and then like just people like crying and like, what the fuck's going on? What's happening? This is so weird. And I'm crying. So it's like, it feels like you go to war with people, man. It feels like you're doing something very important together. And once you you achieve those huge wins, it becomes there's a lot of camaraderie, and I think that's the thing I miss most is the amount of camaraderie you had with people was insane.
Yeah,
Insane.
We had the same thing in those small market newsrooms where
Sure.
you're having to work a lot harder than if you were in a big market, and so
Sure.
you're kind of bonding over the misery and the pain.
Sure.
We're all in this together.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a bad boss, then you're really bonded. But
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not saying that
I can only imagine.
working in news and Tesla, they're obviously very different, but yeah.
But there's probably more commonalities than you think. You know, it's like if you're coming together to work for something that's extremely important, there you already have his recipe to bring people together towards a common cause. And if you can harvest that and really utilize that camaraderie to achieve even bigger goals, then you have magic. You have magic. And I think that's what Tesla, they figured out that recipe. And I think the recipe stems from great leader, great mission. And then if they do their best to hire the best talent, then that talent can identify that formula and start harvesting it for their teams. And that's why you have people like me that are incredibly passionate about the time they had there. I'm not saying my experience is universal because I'm one person, but the opportunity is there for that to be harvested. And I think that is the magic of Tesla at scale, at 100,000 people plus. I don't see that anywhere else.
And Bobby is offering a little context on his Forever battery, takes the liquid electrolyte solution in conventional batteries and turns it into a solid, making it last much longer. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Okay.
Jordan Gissigi, where you at, bro?
Yeah. Oh,
Limiting
yeah.
factor.
We gotta get him on. Man, I should do a live stream with him. I did one interview with him. The Limiting Factor. I'm sure a lot of you guys follow him. But I should do a live stream. I love doing these live streams. I'm just gonna be a live streaming fool.
I encourage you. Yeah, Jordan's great. He's the best.
Oh, Kevin wants to know, when are we getting a riff challenge with Ross Gerber?
Maybe for Q3 earnings, maybe? Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. So Ross Gerber plays guitar as well. And So, and I believe we're going to do like a multicast again for Q3 where he's going to come on my channel and then we're going to shoot like the live stream to multiple channels, which is a thing you can do with StreamYard, by the way. I don't know if you were familiar with that, but you can have like a live stream go to your channel and to someone else's channel, to up to 10 channels at the same time. So you can propagate yourself like freaking everywhere if you really wanted to. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, maybe we'll have him come on and then he'll sort of drop some riffs and I'll try to counter the riff. The thing is that he plays blues and I play metal. So it's like the two genres are very different. So like him playing a blues lick, I'm not good at blues, but if I play a metal lick, I'm curious to see if he's going to be able to catch up because it's different skill sets. You know, my right hand, my picking hand is much more developed than my riffing hand. And I bet you his riffing hand is much more developed than his picking hand. So it's interesting. It's interesting.
We have another question for you from Worston, who actually just joined as a channel member for Ellie in Space. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Woo! And he wants to know from Farzad, how did you get recruited to Tesla? Was it one of the expos like AI Day or Battery Day?
No, there was an opening that was posted for the facility that just opened up in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And we came through it by chance. One of my wife's friends visited our small business. We actually own an escape room. And they showed up and they're like, hey, did you hear about this Tesla opening? Because we had a Tesla Model S. And I'm like, what? Like, no, yeah. Tesla opened a facility here. I'm like, what? And it literally was like 5 minutes down the road from where our escape room was. I'm like, what? And I applied. And lo and behold, a week later, they got back to me. And then I went through the recruiting process and negotiated a package. And here I am.
Wow, that is so cool.
Yeah,
okay,
weird.
I did not know that background. Interesting.
Yeah.
So wait, when did you move to Texas?
October 2020.
Oh.
Yeah, I worked in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania from July 2017 until October 2020. And in October 2020 came to Austin.
I haven't spent any time in Pennsylvania, so I can't.
I don't blame you.
Blame me.
I love Bethlehem, but yeah, there's not a lot there. Yeah.
Steve says one of you plays guitar and one of you sings. So
that's right.
Maybe next time I'm in Texas, we can make dude. I've been thinking about making like some song about like Elon or Tesla or SpaceX, just like something. I don't know. It might be really cringy, but I did order a Tesla bot suit, so I'm becoming more committed to like this craziness that I.
Okay.
So,
listen, just do it. Who cares? Yeah, it is going to be cringy, but just lean into it. Whatever. Let it be cringy. Okay?
I mean, I'm kind of a goofball, so it's on brand with who I actually really am.
Just be yourself. That's what matters. Just be yourself.
Yeah. Be myself. Gary says, such an informative and genuine stream. I'm crying with joy. P.S. No makeup needed. You hear that? You don't need makeup, Farzad. I keep telling you.
Listen,
don't need to wear all that makeup.
I'm so glad I came to this realization once I started YouTube, because before then, boy, it was hard for me.
Dude, that's literally my reality.
That's crazy. You know what's funny? Talking about makeup though, like my wife started she was harping on me for the longest time to go get a pedicure, you know, because I've never gotten a pedicure before and ever. And she's like, what's that?
They're nice, aren't they?
It's surprisingly nice. Yeah. I went and I'm like, well, initially they were doing like the thing with the sole of your feet, you know, where they remove the dead skin or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, it's so dude, I'm so ticklish. It's crazy. I'm like, I almost kicked the poor lady. I know. And I literally almost kicked the poor lady in the face. I almost knocked her out. Like there was almost a situation at this salon where someone almost got knocked out and we almost called 911. But thankfully that didn't happen. But yeah, like the massage, it feels great. I don't get my nails painted, but it feels really nice. And then I look at my feet, I'm like, you know what? This is actually kind of nice. I feel so soft.
Just know that a lot more men are painting their nails now. I've noticed, especially here in Portland.
Me too.
I don't know why.
Me too. I've seen that too.
Like, be your own person if that's
be your own person.
I like never paint my nails, and I'm gonna test these with rock climbing.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Not my style, but anybody who wants to do it, I don't care. Do whatever you want, but you won't see me with painted nails. I'll tell you that much. Not my style.
Well, thank you so much for dedicating some of your time on what day is it? Is it Thursday?
Thursday, I think. Yeah, Thursday. Yeah, 6. Yeah. Time flies.
Okay, but do you honestly, like real talk, do you have trouble keeping track of the days?
100% of the time. I don't know what day it is half the time.
Yeah.
First world problem, right? Like of the craziest degree. Like that's what freedom of time means, is that you're just existing in this world, and then every day you wake up, it feels the same because you're just living for yourself. But you no longer have this schedule unless you build it for yourself that says Monday through Friday work, Saturday, Sunday chill. Like that no longer exists. It's like I wake up and I do what I think I need to do. I wake up and I think I do. And then so at that point you're like, what is the weekend? What is the weekday? Yeah. Like the whole time blurs.
Right.
And no,
time is a construct anyway. So you know.
So is money and everything. Everything's a construct, you know? It's fascinating. It's fascinating. Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. And then you have so much more time to think about the most existential stuff too. Like,
oh, I know.
You know, is this whole thing a game? You know, like what is like this? And I'll shut up in 30 seconds, I promise. But like this whole Fed thing, like it's just like 4 people decide what the economy should do. I'm like, what's going on? So like you actually have time to think like why, and then you just realize that everything's human built, and they're all just concepts and things that have been built to facilitate some sort of system where people can trade with each other and exchange value and to borrow against the future today so you can build the future. And then I'm like, okay, so what is this anyway? Like, what are we doing? You know, like which then says, okay, you can change anything. Then because everything's human created, then you can change everything. I don't know. I'll shut up.
No,
yeah.
Well, it was like honestly how I felt on AI Day, because the rules said there were no +1s, there were no guests, and then the rules changed.
All right,
so
exactly.
It was like,
yeah,
just shoot your shot. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. And I don't know, maybe we're in a simulation. Those are my like recent takeaways.
You said it perfectly earlier. The rules are made up and the points don't matter.
Yeah.
For real.
Great throwback, though.
Yeah.
What a great show.
That's what I do. It's a great show. Really good show. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Farzad, thank you so much. I hope you'll be willing to be a guest again in the future.
Of course. Absolutely.
And thank you to everyone who joined. We really appreciate it. And I gotta do something about this cat. So I'm gonna hop off and probably go eat some lunch. But thank you guys so much again for joining. This has been really fun, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, everybody. Till the next one.